All right. So, welcome to season 1. No. I literally said season 1. Welcome to season 2. This is season 2. This is season 2, episode 1 of the Surviving Second Gen podcast. I'm so hype. Okay. I'm proud of myself, okay? Like my mom would say, I'm proud for myself. Because I just recorded 8 episodes in the first season. And I consistently did it every week. Brought y'all a new episode. And now we're in the second season, right? Of me recording and bringing y'all new episodes. Are y'all not pleased with me? Are y'all not pleased? I'm pleased, okay? So I'm hype. And I'm excited for this season. I have more topics, more things, more stuff that I'm just trying to give to y'all that I think y'all will appreciate. So all that to say, let's get into season 2, episode 1. And we're starting off with some career stuff. Okay. What I want to talk about today, first of all, I'm pretty sure that if you are a person who knows a child of immigrants, then you probably know a doctor. If you know a child of immigrants, you probably personally know a nurse. You probably personally know an engineer. You probably personally know a lawyer, because these are the things that children of immigrants do. Immigrants and children of immigrants do. And I say that because I want to talk about this idea that children of immigrants have to have these type of careers. And you know what I'm talking about. The doctor, the lawyer, the nurse, the engineer, the high-ranking individual, basically. These top tier type of jobs, the jobs that people look at and they're like, okay, like that's the type of jobs that a lot of children of immigrants have, right? And they have these jobs because children of immigrants, and I can include myself in this, right? We have these parents who come from their respective countries, and in their respective countries, these high status jobs mean a lot. And that's why I say specifically high status, because having these type of jobs does put you on a different level in terms of status when you are a doctor, when you are a lawyer, when you are a politician, just something that people see as prestigious. It puts you on a different socioeconomic status. It puts you in a different status in the eyes of other people. You have a different visibility. There just comes a lot with having these particular careers. I mean, ultimately, it can change your life. You know, the way your life looks is different if you have a college educated person in these immigrant countries versus someone who's not college educated. Like literally, it can change how your life looks like. So when we think about immigrant parents, they hold a lot of weight to these type of careers because it matters. It changes what life looks like for them in their country when they have these types of careers. And also the way that education is, the value that education has in other countries outside of the US is very different. The way that school is outside of the US is very different. I did not spend time going to school. Well, I went to school for like 2 years in Haiti, actually, before this was like before I even started kindergarten. So I went to school out there. But my siblings, other family members, extended family, other people that I know have went to school in Haiti and other countries outside of the US. The way the school system is set up outside of the US does not compare to what is going on in the US. The way that it is challenging compares nothing to the US. The way that the curriculum is set up does not compare to the US. So I say all that to say, when a child goes from kindergarten to 12th grade in another country, that is a big accomplishment. Just getting through all of those years of school is a big accomplishment, because the way the curriculum is set up, the way you have to be the best of the best in every single grade that you're in, like, it's a big deal. And if you go to higher education and you're like college educated, that is a humongous deal. And I say that because, again, the curriculum is so rigorous. It's not just like oh yeah, you went to college, it's a big deal. I think going to college is a big deal in America, but the way it's a big deal in other countries is different, because, again, there's so much that people know you have to go through to actually achieve, to get through that is not no small feat. So I think those two things, the socioeconomic status, the visibility that you have, and also all the things that come with achieving such a high accomplishment, higher education, is what leads immigrant parents to have such a huge emphasis on education for their children, right? So they have that piece. And then there's another layer of, if they didn't get that opportunity, they need you to get that opportunity, right? Because for them, if they are leaving everything that they know to come to a country where access to that higher education is easier, then there's no reason why you don't access it, which makes sense. I think that it makes sense for me, even though I don't have the same experiences as my parents, and I don't see education in the same way that my parents sees it in some ways. I value education so much. And even for my future children, God willing, I will instill the importance of education. Because that's literally something nobody can take away from you, no matter what. Like, that knowledge you have, no one could take it away from you. Now, how they get that information, how they get that knowledge and education, that may look different, right? So I think that's where the issue can lie, in that immigrant parents can push education so much that it can be harmful to the child of immigrants who has to deal with that pressure of getting said education. So I think it's a beautiful thing that children of immigrants are high achievers. They are the top of the top in their class. They do the top of the top of line of work. They go above and beyond, and they're just top tier when it comes to education. Like, they just are. I think it's beautiful to see, when you see a doctor, you see a child of immigrants. When you see a lawyer, you see a child of immigrants. When you see a politician, you see I think that is beautiful, because I think children of immigrants legit are running this country. I mean, immigrants have their place in this world, and children of immigrants has another place in this world. And at this point in time, children of immigrants are doing fabulous things. And at the same time, I can say that there are negative things that come with being a child of immigrants that is pressured to be in a certain field. Because I think that's where the issue lies when you have a immigrant parent that pushes the narrative that their child has to be something so bad that the child almost has no say in what they do in their life. That's where the problem lies. Because let me tell you what happens to people who are high achievers. What can happen to people who are high achievers? People who are high achievers deal with perfectionism. They want to be perfect in every single aspect of what they do. And not producing perfect affects how they see themselves. So if I don't do this and I don't get the best grade in this assignment, then something is wrong with me. So they attribute their ability to do something at the highest level to their self-worth. That's an issue. People who are high achievers or who've been pushed to go above and beyond can often be very, very critical of themselves and other people. So that looks like literally putting themselves down about any little thing, any little error, any little flaw becomes an issue. And they do that to other people too, because they have been used to a parent that says, oh, you didn't do the absolute best. You're not absolutely perfect. You don't achieve this particular thing in this particular way. That's not good enough. It's like all or nothing. There's no in between, right? So that child of immigrants, grows up to be this person who thinks if I don't get this done, if I don't appear this way, if I am not accepted in this space, then I'm not good enough. So they become very, very critical. People who are high achievers, usually children of immigrants, tend to carry around a lot of anxiety because they are constantly worried about what needs to be done, how it needs to be done, whether or not it can be done. There's always anxiety around something that's happening in their lives. And sometimes that's the anxiety of their parents that they carry and take on, or it can just be the fact that their parents are creating this pressure for them and that creates anxiety for them, right? So that's another negative thing that comes with being this high achiever. Another thing that can be difficult for a high achiever is that they are chronic people pleasers. Because for them, they've been taught, right? Like they have to show up in a particular way, in this particular job field. And if not, then again, that's not good enough. So what is it that I can do to make sure that my parents are satisfied or one of my parents are satisfied in what I'm doing? And that crosses over into, my adult world, in that I want to make sure that everybody is good. I want to make sure that everybody's okay. Whatever I can do to make sure that everything and everybody is good, that's what I'm going to do, to the detriment of themselves, right? Like people pleasers, for the most part, will do everything for everybody else and oftentimes forget themselves. So these are all the things that, forcing someone to be in a particular type of career can create all these negative things that come with it. Again, I think it's a beautiful thing that we have all these amazing individuals who are doing amazing things in different fields. But when you think about how these children are carrying around all of these things because of the pressure, I don't think that's healthy. Children of immigrants shouldn't be chronic people pleasers. They shouldn't be carrying around chronic anxiety. They shouldn't be constantly critical of themselves and other people. That's not healthy. So I think we need to reevaluate how we push someone to be their best self, and reevaluate the value we put into the education system and higher education for children of immigrants. As I was saying earlier, there's so much value in a person completing higher education when they grow up in another country. There's so much benefit to it. And I think that looks totally different in the US, because yes, education is valued in the US, but I think there is more of an open mind about what makes you educated or how to achieve success and status. And I think that just goes into the fact that, the US is a capitalist society. Most societies outside the US isn't based on capitalism. So it's not about, make your way up however you can in whatever way. No, that's not the mindset. But we live in a capitalist society in the US where it's like, you don't have to go to college to, have six figures. You don't have to do that. There's different ways. I mean, most of the billionaires that we talk about, we know about, they didn't complete a bachelor's degree. Some of them didn't even finish high school. So it's like, there's so many other ways to achieve success in the US. So that in itself, another conversation for another day, but the way the capitalist system works in the US, it really just changes how education looks like. And I feel like personally, there's aspects of that immigrant parents can hone in on to help change how they pressure children of immigrants, their children, to achieve a certain level of education. So as a former school counselor who has helped students as young as second grade figure out what they want to do with their life, when I particularly got a lot of joy from talking to high school students when they were preparing to go to college and thinking about what they wanted to major in, what they could see themselves doing as a career. I loved having those conversations. Career counseling was something I truly enjoyed because, again, I've always valued education. That was something that my parents instilled in me. But I feel like it's important to allow children to explore. Going back to the stages of development, what we talked about in season 1, there is a stage in a child's adolescence where they have to be able to explore and think about what life looks like as an adult, what career choices they have, and things of that nature. When we box a child of immigrants into this space of you only have X amount of choices, you can only do these 4 things, then it boxes their mind in the ability to think that there are things that they can do beyond what they've seen somebody else do, beyond what is the norm. Doctors are great. Doctors are needed. Always. Nurses are great. Nurses are needed always. Engineers are needed always. But so are many other jobs and professions. Therapists are needed. So many jobs, so many people, so many things are needed in this world outside of the four things that immigrant parents convince children of immigrants that they need to do. I think it's important to understand what your child's gifts are. And I think that's something that immigrant parents need to put more trust in, is what is my child's gifts? What do I see in my child? What do I see that they naturally do that they can hone into and create a career out of, versus what I think in my mind is the best thing that they can do for their life? Do you know how many adult children of immigrants that I know that have either completely regretted the field that they went into, or actually changed the field that they went through and started all over because of what their parents wanted them to do? So their parents convinced them so much that they needed to do a particular job, to the point that they went to school for it. They did 4 years or 7 years of schooling of that thing, stuck it all the way through because their parents said that they had to. And then at some point they realized, I hate this. I don't want to do this anymore. That's terrible. Like, that sucks. I couldn't imagine going to school for something for X amount of years just because somebody else wanted that for me. Do you know how much that there's so much that goes, you feel bad, you feel like you wasted your time, you might feel embarrassed, you might feel regret, you may feel resentment towards your parents. These are all the things that can happen to a child of immigrants just because somebody else said they wanted them to do something. I've seen it to the point where that parent will basically disown that child if they don't pursue a particular career that the parent wants. That's sheesh. Disown their child, or to the point where they won't pay for that person's education if they don't go to a particular school or pursue a particular career. That is beyond controlling, and that is beyond not okay. It's not okay to use that as a way to lead and move somebody to do something that you want them to do. And I think that for children of immigrants, it's really important, if you can, to start early and often talking about your gifts and honing in on that, so that you're not led down a path where it gets to the point where you're 18 and it's time to go off to college, and your parents are holding over your head that if you don't pursue this particular career, they're not paying for you to go. Because that would be a shame if that had to happen. So yeah, I don't know who's listening to this and where you're at right now, in that career trajectory, but yeah, as early as possible, I really think it's important to have the conversations with your parents about, this is what I want to do. This is what I'm seeing myself doing. And the only way you can do that is you personally exploring, right? You can't put it on them or anybody else to figure out what you want to do. Allow yourself to explore. So go to your school counselor and, take some assessments if you need to. Talk to a, college not recruiter, a college advisor to see what the options are at certain colleges and schools, right? So like give yourself those options to explore what it looks like to be in a certain field that you feel like you can do. And then relay that message to the person that you know values that. Because again, there's reasons why they value that. And I honestly, underneath all of the controlling and or manipulative tactics, there's love and wanting the best, right? But again, if they're going off of this narrative that it has to be this certain way or everything is gonna implode and nothing's gonna work out because they are still thinking about the fact that they're in their immigrant country when we're in a capitalist society where it's not the same thing. There are options. Now, this is not to say like, oh, you know, again, higher education doesn't have value. It sure does. But there's options outside of higher education. Everybody doesn't have to go to college. Everybody doesn't need to be an entrepreneur either. But again, you got to figure out what makes sense for you. So I think it's important to remember, I need to explore. I need to figure out what it is that I want to do so I can relay that message effectively, so I can set myself up to have the support that I need if I need it at all. Or if you need to set yourself up to be your own support because you know that the person is not going to, you know, support you if it's not this particular path. Because not everybody is dealing with a parent who has the capacity to understand that conversation and allow it to be their child's reality. You know, for some parents, it's just like, no, that's not how I see it. I don't believe in what you're trying to do. And we're not going to go there. So what is it that you can prep yourself to do to support your own personal vision? But you got to have a vision first, right? You have to know what you want for yourself and how to get there. A vision and a plan. Well, secondly, when I think about this, I think it's important for people who are adults battling this and possibly thinking about a career change, or they have to do a career change, and they may be feeling bad about it or feeling like dumb, like, dang, like I can't believe I have to do this. First of all, it's not your fault. Like, especially if we are talking about the narrative that was instilled in you, you know, as a child, and you basically didn't see that you had choices and options. You weren't given the resources to explore those options. It's not your fault. And it's okay to pivot. It's okay to completely start over. It's okay. Like, again, when you think about the society that we live in the US, do you know the amount of people who are millionaires, billionaires, living their life doing something now that did not start that particular path until they were like 40? So it's like, yeah, it's okay to not have it figured out at 35. Now, I'm not talking about extremes here of like, you have nothing going on for you at 35. You have no vision, no nothing. You're stalled. Because I think that's an unfortunate place to be in, and it's definitely not ideal. But I'm talking about the fact that you may have gotten to a point that you felt like you had to go to please a cultural context, and you feel stuck, and now you're trying to get unstuck. It's okay to start down a new path so you can have something that fits best for you. Like, that's totally okay. Because again, I think there's so much guilt and shame that may come with that. And there may be backlash that comes with that from the people who told you needed to be there. Right? So if you were told that you had to be a nurse and you did all the things to be a nurse, and you start your career in nursing and you suddenly say, I don't want to be a nurse anymore, I'm going to school to be a cosmetologist, they may look at you like you're crazy. You know, like they may be like, what are you doing? But again, I say it's okay to push forward if you have a vision and a plan. If this is something that fulfills you, if this is something that you feel like is your purpose, if it's something that you feel like you have the capability of completing, and you have a actual set of steps to get there, go ahead. Like, go for it. You know what I'm saying? Like, go for it. Don't let that stop you from what it is that you want to do. Because I think it's hard because you kind of keep yourself in this mind state of, you know, almost I'm still a child, and my parents and their approval and how they see me, especially in this cultural space, matters so much. And yes, that can matter. And yes, at the same time, what you feel about yourself matters. So if you don't feel good and you don't feel a sense of worthiness in a career path that your parents chose for you, you don't have to stay in that career path. If you can see yourself feeling so much more empowered, so much more influential, in a career path that is completely different than what somebody else saw for you, it's okay to go for it. Yeah, like I would tell anybody any day that I think it's so much more important to do something that you love versus something that other people love for you and can see you doing and brings them a sense of security and status and all of those things. Because that's working in their favor and not yours. So what are we doing? So yeah, figure out what you love, figure out what it is that you see yourself doing and go for it. Even if you're 30, even though if you're 37, even if you're 45, life does not end at those ages, God willing. Like, there is no point in staying in this unhappiness just because somebody else saw that for you. And there's ways that you can successfully plan for and decide for what you want in life and go for it, and be happy. I think it's important to find joy in your career. I will always stand by that. Yes, money is important. Duh, we need it to survive, right? And yes, making lots of money is great, sure. But I think that there's more power in stability. So you don't need a excess amount of money to be stable. You can be stable with a certain amount. And joy in what you do. I think that's like the powerful combination in creating a career that makes sense. Is no, you don't want to be in a career or doing something that you're stressed about every day because you're making no money. Nobody wants that. There may be a season where you're really striving and grinding, so you do, have to settle with not making as much money as you want to. That's different. And I think that happens, with working in certain fields, or just trying to build something in general. But on the other end, I don't think it's okay to be making however much money, like buku money, but you are like miserable. Like you don't like what you're doing. It's not fair to you, and it's not fair for the people you serve, honestly, because in whatever work that you do, you're serving others, you're doing something for the benefit of somebody, even if it's you're working on a machine, somebody's going to use that machine, right? And ultimately, if you're not doing what you're doing, using your gifts, basically serving the community in that work, wholeheartedly, authentically, I think it's a total disservice. I think there's something beautiful and pleasing to God when we really do the things that He has instilled in us, and do it with all of the power and all of the ability that He's given us, versus allowing that gift to pass, either because we're in the wrong career and we're like settling for that, or we don't actually believe in the fact that there's a gift that is inside of us, that God has given us, that we can use to better ourselves in our community. It's almost like saying, nah, that thing that has been put inside of me, it's I guess, like, what? It's like, what are you saying to God? Like, you're telling Him you guess? Like, nah. Like, if He has something for you that He's instilled in you, that He knows is your purpose on this earth, you should be doing your due diligence to find that out and actually going for it. That's what I believe, I think the Lord finds joy in that and rejoices in that. And yeah, I'm getting churchy, but I don't know. That was just something that was in my spirit to say, that, like, don't be out here playing with God. You better follow your gifts. Like, know your purpose. Know that He put you on this earth for a purpose, and for that reason, you're going to follow that purpose. Like, you gotta find that out. You and God gotta have a conversation to figure out what that is and strive for it. And if that means that you figured out at 50, okay, you figured it out then. What are you going to do with that information? You feel me? So, yeah, that's what I leave y'all with this conversation. Yeah. If you're a child of immigrants that had to deal with that pressure of picking a particular career that your parents wanted, I want to hear your journey about that, what that looked like for you, because again, I've seen so many people go through it and try to overcome it, and I can't even imagine. So let's talk about it. You can go to the YouTube and continue this conversation. So thank you so much for tuning in to season 2, first episode. We're out here. I'll see you all at the next one. Bye.